Hello and welcome to another update. In this one I'll be covering the latest developments throughout the front line, starting out with two pieces of major news. The first one is that the Ukrainians have managed to capture the village of Robotyne in the Zaporizhia front after 78 days of fighting. And the second one is that a plane has crashed within Russia. It is said that it was shot down by air defense. Whether it is Ukrainian partisans or the Russian air defense who shut down the plane, the important bit is that in the passenger list is Prigozhin and Dmitry Utkin. Prigozhin is the leader and founder of Wagner, and Dmitry Utkin is a major general and commander of the Wagner forces. So if this is true and this passenger list is accurate, the Wagner organization, PMC, has lost one of its major commanders and the owner and co-founder of Wagner. So with this, there has been serious developments when it comes to the internal affairs of Russia and what will happen to Belarus with Wagner within it, and if Wagner will react to this. There's a lot of questions, but let's get back into that later. Starting out in the Zaporizhia front, the Ukrainian forces have launched further offensives in the Robotyne area, and over the past 2 days they have pushed onwards and they have now managed to capture all of Robotyne, and this is according to the latest report by Deep State Map, where they post this picture here which showcases a Ukrainian flag on one of the southernmost buildings within the village. So this indicates that the Ukrainians have full control over it. However, there's still the possibility that some infantry passed through and put up the flag, but most likely that is just wishful thinking on the Russian part. So most likely the Ukrainians have full control over the village, and as such they are now ready to do their main push in the direction of the first offensive line of the Russian forces. So we may see huge developments on the Zaporizhia front in the coming days, especially since tomorrow, 24th of August, is Ukraine's National Day. So that could be one of the dates in which we see the Ukrainians wanting to get results, and therefore they will launch their main push that we have been waiting for, the one that includes Challenger tanks and etc. Everything that they have been saving up is to be used soon. And this actually goes in line with how I've seen the Ukrainian forces, the videos coming out over the past few days, has had a significant increase in infantry compared to armored vehicles. This could indicate that they are saving up these armored vehicles for their main push, and now we see the capture of Robotyne. This adds up to the main push happening, and the Ukrainians were preparing for it and are now ready for it, and that we'll see it very, very soon. As soon as they launch it, we'll see it here on my channel first, so make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Moving on to the reports on the Wagner plane crash. According to the latest reports, in the region north of Moscow, the Wagner plane has crashed. And this is actually very interesting because we see information that the business jet belonging to Prigozhin, the leader of Wagner, has crashed. According to this picture here, the crash happened in the Tver region, and it was presumably shut down by air defense fire. So what we see is that the Prigozhin himself was listed as a passenger on the plane. However, it is not confirmed that he's been killed yet, and that is because based on when the Wagner mutiny happened, the FSB and so on checked out of his personal belongings, all of these things. So we know he has body doubles, we know that he had fake identities, so there's many possibilities. And he also has a second private jet, which is currently maneuvering in the Moscow region, so it has not been shut down yet. There is a second plane, there's also the possibility that that holds him, but the most likely thing is that Prigozhin has been shut down about 99%, and this has happened as well as Dmitry Utkin, who is a prominent Wagner commander. So with these two being shut down, this is very significant for Wagner, because these are their prominent figures. They have a lot of say in what happens within Wagner, and now with Wagner in Belarus, on top of all of the issues they had prior with Russia, from the 24th of June and prior to it with Prigozhin constantly complaining about ammunition, there is a lot of tension here right now. So there's a huge possibility that a lot of issues could spring up from this. But definitely the situation right now is that allegedly Prigozhin has died, Dmitry Utkin has died, and the culprit is air defense. So it's most likely Russian air defense shooting down Prigozhin's plane. And therefore we see the second plane now maneuvering, trying to avoid fire. And if that is to happen, then we move back to the front line, where in the Vremelsky Ledge area, the Ukrainian forces continue attacking their Russian positions in this direction as they continue their attempts at gaining full control over the area, and that they try to essentially push the Russians back. Currently, their main push is happening on the western parts of the river line, and then there is some minor excursions to the east, where they're trying to push eastwards, push the Russians away from that area. And moving back to the Robotyne area, this is actually very interesting that the Ukrainians have managed to fully capture the village, because according to information from the Russian side, about 10 a.m., which is 9 hours ago, the Russian forces reported that they were in control of half the village. So essentially no developments since the day before. But they also mentioned that there were Ukrainian units in the basements of the houses throughout the village. So this could mean that the Russians were trying to push forward, trying to clear these basements, but the Ukrainians had poured in a lot of infantry towards the village, and then the Ukrainians launched a armored attack towards the village, and with assist from their infantry who were already within the village, they were able to outnumber the Russian forces and were able to push them out of the village, after which the Russians would be forced to withdraw behind their trench lines south and to the west of the village. According to the Deep State map update, there's no reports on the trenches to the west and to the south of the village. So I'm assuming that they're still under Russian control, but there's also the possibility that the Ukrainians have pushed them away from there. But generally the situation is that the Ukrainians allegedly have control over the village. Then we move on to the Bakhmut area, where here the Ukrainian forces continue their attacks in the direction of Klishchiivka as well as Andreevka, as they are trying to push onwards, push the Russian away from their positions, try to cut off the roads between Klishchiivka and Andreevka, and try to gain control over Andreevka, which would then allow them to flank Klishchiivka. As for the northern parts by the Kupiansk area, Kislivka and so on, the Russian forces continue their own offensive operations as they try to gain control over Sinkivka, as well as moving further southwards Petropavlivka. And in the eastern parts in the direction of Kislivka and Kotlyarivka, they are also continuing their attacks in this direction, trying to cut off the Ukrainian positions here and reach the main road, and then push westwards, southwards and northwards from these positions, trying to capture the villages in the area. So the general situation right now is very dynamic. Anything can happen in these hours, as there's major developments happening throughout the front and in the back line. This is definitely going to be one of the major points throughout this conflict, and that is going to be all for this update. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.